My husband is in love again, taking care of a little girl. Now I'm mature, no longer crying or making a scene, even reminding him considerately to go on dates. He's quite satisfied, boasting to his buddies how he should marry someone as obedient as me. But his friends seem uneasy, because I've never been obedient to them, especially the serious man sitting in the corner. Last night, when I was so exhausted that I couldn't even move a finger, he kept pressing me, asking when I would make things official, urging me to speak up. Billy is in love again. This time with a young girl. He really likes her, and she's quite clingy. It was my birthday, and Billy, unusually, came home to celebrate with me. Before blowing out the candles, his phone buzzed. He avoided me, went to the balcony to answer the call. But I could still hear it. Are you back home with that old woman? If you sleep in the same bed with her tonight, we're done, I said sternly. Billy wasn't angry, just patient, trying to calm her down. Let's cut the cake first, then I'll spend time with you. I got you the pink diamond you like. She seemed appeased, adding with a hint of flirtation, but you can't kiss her. Billy chuckled, I won't even touch her, okay? I couldn't help but laugh. Are mistresses these days so bold and confident? After the call, I kindly handed him the pink diamond on the table. You got the wrong one. This should be for her, I said. He paused, then took out another box from his pocket. An emerald necklace, your birthday gift. Mixing up gifts already? Has he become so indifferent to me? Thank you, I accepted it without getting angry. Perhaps I've been too obedient. There was a strange look in his eyes, Melody. He moved closer, leaning in to kiss me. I quickly blocked him and said, no, your girlfriend doesn't allow it. He darkened, a hint of irritation on his face. Melody, are you throwing a tantrum? He asked, half laughing. But I didn't have time for him. I grabbed my phone and messaged his young girlfriend. Your man wants to be affectionate with me, so he might not make it to your date tonight. Soon after, Billy's phone rang, and he hurriedly went out to pacify her. I sighed. People always change. I used to fear him not coming home, now I fear him staying and interfering with my dates. Billy and I got married because of love. But he's like a wild horse, only wanting open fields. Over the years, he's had countless affairs. At first, I resisted, cried, threw things, even begged him to end it and come back to the family. But Billy just watched coldly, saying, Shirley, stop it. He'd say, in our circle, who doesn't have a few women on the side? Isn't being a wife enough for you? I laughed, then can't I have a group of male models on the side? Billy cursed at me, saying I was crazy. Shirley, try it if you dare. Of course, I never pursued other men. I've accepted it and no longer interfere with Billy's affairs. I don't cry or make a scene about his flings. He's quite pleased, boasting to his buddies when he's drunk, saying, see, you should marry someone as obedient as my wife. That day, his brothers had mixed expressions. They all knew I hadn't been obedient to any of them. Every time Billy got involved with someone, I flirted with one of his brothers behind his back. If he could cheat time and time again, then he shouldn't be surprised if I knit him a green hat. Especially that cold, stern man sitting in the corner, Daniel. The night before, when I was so tired I couldn't even move a finger, he was still pressuring me, asking when I would accept his advances, urging me to speak up. Yes, Daniel has been quite persistent lately. His jealousy doesn't pale in comparison to Billy's new girlfriend. I listened to the voice message. It was as intoxicating as a mojito. Melody, come out, he implored. I didn't respond. 3 seconds later, he sent a photo, a well-defined, muscular stomach with water droplets cascading down below the defined abs. Sending me such a photo? Wasn't it an obvious invitation? I wasn't easily swayed, being provoked by him only leads to addiction. Same place, the suite at the 5-star hotel. I waited outside the door for a while, but there was no response. Someone was getting angry. If you don't open the door soon, I'm leaving, he threatened. I wasn't one to indulge him. Suddenly, the door opened, and a well-proportioned hand pulled me in. Daniel, looking resentful, was sitting on the sofa, fully clothed, his cold face staring back at me. What do you mean by not answering my messages? His profile was so attractive, I couldn't help but soften. I couldn't at home, I explained. His eyelashes trembled lightly like feathers of a raven. Melody, divorce him. No way. He hesitated for a moment, the corners of his eyes quickly turning red. Still loving him? Then what am I to you? Do you have no idea in your heart? But I dare not speak up. Daniel is clearly a cold-faced boss in the business world, decisive in negotiations. Every time he comes to me, he looks like a victim of my bullying, yet I love him this way. If I love him, can I still come to you? Let's wait a bit longer. I am past the age of love being everything. I have my own selfish reasons. At the end of the year, Billy's company's North District project planned for 5 years will finally take off. His assets may multiply several times. If we divorce, I have to wait for a substantial amount of money before leaving. It's what I deserve. After all, during his toughest entrepreneurial days, I was the one staying with him in the basement, eating instant noodles. I use the same tricks on Daniel as I do on younger girls to soothe him. I won't leave tonight, I'll stay with you. Daniel smiled, his eyes sparkling, almost blinding me. I'm handsome and capable, there's no reason for you not to choose me. Men are childish until the day they die. After saying that, he gently took hold of my hand and led me to unwrap his bathrobe. Here, your gift is unwrapped. I seem to understand Billy's happiness a bit now. Wildflowers do smell better. But I understand, this happiness comes from a moral decline. It can't withstand the light, not accepted by society. Melody, when will you make me official? Speak up. Melody, I really like you, do you feel the same? Faced with his sincere gaze, I couldn't answer. I touched his face. A rare moment of conscience flickered, but it wasn't much. I wanted to end it all, but he still thought we had a future. So, let's wait a bit longer. Wait until he's tired of our relationship and takes the initiative to leave. Just like Billy, who once loved intensely, only to end up in calm fatigue one day. And guys like them, wealthy young men. Who knows which words are true, which are false? It's too easy to believe a man's words, it might bring bad luck. The next day, dragging my tired body home. Where were you? Billy, for the first time ever, was sitting on the living room sofa early in the morning. I was stunned for a moment, casually saying, "Can we go down for breakfast?" Billy glanced at me, then suddenly stood in front of me, gaze deep, his voice slightly cold. Melody, where did the red mark on your neck come from? I thought of Daniel and my heart skipped a beat. Itchy neck, scratched it. Billy stared at my neck fiercely. It was obvious he didn't believe me. Because the kiss mark was too obvious. He gritted his teeth. Shirley, do you have someone else? Who is he? I slammed the door to my room, nearly bumping into his nose. Luckily we've been sleeping in separate rooms during this time. Billy's fierce voice came through the door slit. Shirley, if I catch you with someone else, I'll kill him. It's Daniel, go ahead, kill him. I knew he wouldn't dare, after all, Daniel came from a prominent family, and Billy couldn't touch him. At most, they would just have a fight, and perhaps put an end to my complicated relationship with Daniel as well. Unexpectedly, Billy froze for a moment, then sneered. Shirley, you need to come up with better lies. Who is Daniel to be interested in you? In that moment, for some reason, my heart felt like a plum dropped into cold water, icy and bitter. It was the contempt from the depths of Billy's heart. Just because he didn't cherish me, was that why I could betray our marriage again and again without a care? Actually, except for Daniel, I didn't go all the way with his group of wealthy second-generation brothers. I tried. But it just didn't work out. It was me who couldn't handle it, and the most serious time, I left the other party speechless. He stared helplessly at his stained clothes. I am so handsome, and you actually vomited? I apologized to him, saying, sorry, it's not because you're handsome. It's me, I have emotional OCD. I am different from Billy, I really can't be as promiscuous as he is. Except for Daniel, that was an accident. Billy, let's get divorced. I can't take it anymore. Let's free ourselves sooner. Billy paused for a few seconds. Shirley, you should know, I hate it when you throw tantrums. I agree to the divorce, don't regret it. Billy was convinced I was just using the threat of divorce against him. However, he didn't expect. The showdown came so quickly. My best friend is the new business manager at a 5-star hotel. She gave me a voucher for a free experience. Daniel raised his eyebrows. I haven't experienced it yet, take me there. Unexpectedly, coming for the experience, were also Billy and his new young lady. Just as they swiped their card to enter room 817, I opened the door to room 818. Just a wall separating us, how exciting. So exciting that Daniel kissed me as soon as he entered the room. Wait, the neighbors might hear. He whispered in my ear, his voice lazy, reassuring me that the soundproofing was decent. How did he know that? I squinted at him, asking who he had brought here before. Daniel's eyes sparkled briefly. Melody, are you jealous? He teased. I'm glad you're jealous for me. But don't worry, you have all of me, no one else so, he reassured me before burying his head in my neck to nibble. Daniel was a bit of a romantic. Back then, when I tried to seduce him, he was so aloof. Sometimes I wondered if it was an act. Suddenly, the phone rang. Reluctantly, Daniel let me go, and his dreamy eyes narrowed at me. Glancing at my phone, my heart sank. It was Billy, his voice low and cold on the other end. Open the door. 10 seconds later, Billy's voice sounded again. Melody, I have plenty of ways to make you open the door. It seemed he had heard the noise earlier, and I knew he could be stubborn. Explaining this situation to others would be awkward. After all, he was with his girlfriend, I was with my boyfriend, and we were right next door. It was not a good look. I had to temporarily inconvenience Daniel. Can you hide in the bathroom for a while? Daniel clung to me, hesitant to move. I can't be seen like this. I pressed my fingertips to my forehead. Outside the door was my husband. Your current identity is the third party, got it? He challenged, not accepting it. If you can bring your lover, why do I have to be so humble? You want to compare? I felt a bit guilty for making him look weak. So, I had to bend down and fiercely kiss him on his lips. But this will make it more exciting, right? Daniel's eyes lit up, his lips glistening with moisture as he smiled. This is more like it. Finally, the young master started to listen and leisurely stepped into the bathroom. I opened the door, and Billy stood there with a dark expression. Where is he, that cheater? Billy clenched his lips and looked around, walking towards the bathroom door but didn't push it. Fine, can you hide forever? This was a hotel under my brother's company, one phone call, and everything would be crystal clear. Melody, just wait, I want to see who it is. This room didn't have any surveillance cameras, as I had checked before. Sometimes plans don't work out as you expect. Billy called his brother, but Daniel's phone rang in the bathroom. Billy glanced at me, suspiciously hung up the call, and the ringing stopped abruptly. He dialed again, and the pleasant sound of the ringtone came from inside the bathroom. At that moment, Billy's face turned as green as if a company's stock had collapsed. Is that Daniel? Honestly, I didn't know it was a property owned by Daniel's company. The bathroom door opened. Daniel walked out calmly and sat on the couch, crossing his legs, looking as if he was in a cafe rather than caught red-handed. Tell me, which part of the surveillance footage do you want to see? Billy's Adam's apple rolled a few times, and his gaze flickered between me and Daniel. Unable to suppress his emotions any longer, he clenched his fist and swung at Daniel, who dodged it. Staring sharply at Billy, as if he saw through him, Daniel said, "Why would you hit me?" Billy clenched and relaxed his fists, veins bulging on his neck. He pulled me with him. Let's go home and talk. It was the first time I saw Daniel exuding such a hostile aura. He stood up abruptly. If you have business with me, don't touch Melody. Billy seemed infuriated. Daniel, Melody is my wife, this is our family matter. With a cold grunt, Daniel replied, even with a marriage certificate, it's not a reason for you to hurt her. I tried to calm Daniel with my eyes, don't worry, I'll be fine. I also need to talk to him. Daniel had to control his emotions. Make sure you don't do anything you shouldn't. Billy's face darkened, do you have no sense of propriety? Daniel's tone was cold, I'm already a lover, what sense of propriety? On the way back, Billy accelerated the car recklessly. Billy, you're driving too fast, she's scared. Yes, there was someone else in the car, sitting in the passenger seat. She was Shirley, the young girl who had recently captured Billy's heart. Shirley had been wearing a skimpy camisole dress earlier, red-eyed, gazing at Billy. Frowning, he pondered for a moment and took her as well. I'll drop you off first, Billy said, looking into my eyes. As if he wanted to see me get mad. But I didn't care. It's fine, you can take her all the way to bed if you want. I'm not in a hurry. Bang! The heavy door closed behind me. I was so generous, why was he so angry? Shirley ran back in her high heels after running 100 meters. Forgetting her lipstick was just an excuse, she wanted to pick a fight. Why don't you get divorced? Afraid no one will want you when you're older? You're already 27, should start worrying. But Billy likes me, your efforts are useless. I smiled at her bright but silly face. The one who called me an old woman on the phone last time, wasn't that you? Always bringing up age, are you afraid you won't live to 27? If he likes you so much, why is he having affairs? He's so clueless. Oh, by the way, I have a marriage certificate, do you? I can get property after divorce, but if you get dumped, you won't get a penny. Her face turned white with anger. I quickly rolled up the car window, almost pinching her nose. Good cars have good soundproofing. I sat in the car with air conditioning on, watching her mouth move in frustration against the glass. After a while, I lowered the window, pretending not to hear clearly. What did you say? Say it again. She shouted, you. I raised the window again. Better to drive others crazy than to be upset yourself. 2 hours later, Billy sat on the living room sofa with a cold expression, a cigarette in hand. Melody, when did you start with him? I thought for a moment and casually replied, it was the day I brought you lunch at the company, you were sitting with Shirley on your lap, and you told her, you've been playing me for 7 years, you're bored. Billy's hand holding the cigarette trembled slightly. A hint of panic flashed in his eyes. He would never know that day when I walked out of the company carrying the lunchbox, crying until my stomach cramped. I used to like Billy a lot, but after marriage, he slowly tore my heart apart like a blunt knife, leaving me bleeding. I had to save myself. I would do whatever made me happy, even if it meant compromising my dignity and embracing an immoral life. Since that day, I began looking for his brothers, one by one. Once I vomited, until I met Daniel. He was too good-looking. Good-looking and useful, curing my emotional cleanliness. Billy's voice came through the smoke. Melody, break up with him. I broke up with Shirley. Let's start over together. My affair was with Daniel. Billy started reevaluating my worth. When I was obedient and boring at home, he found it uninteresting and felt free to hurt me. I chuckled, Billy, I've been with you for 7 years, I'm bored. I return these words to you. Billy was stunned, clenched his teeth, his eyes reddening at the corners. His voice turned cold, with a tone of icy gravel. Melody, even if you divorce, do you think Daniel will marry you? With his background, he only marries an equal. Besides, he doesn't know you've been a dirty woman with your stepfather. At that moment, everything seemed to be abuzz in my ears. I could only hear one thing clearly, my last trace of affection for Billy had vanished into thin air. He quickly regained his composure, a hint of regret in his eyes. I'm sorry, Melody, I spoke out of line. It was only then that I understood why he kept having affairs. Maybe it was partly his promiscuous nature, but deep down, it was also his hidden disdain for me. You think I'm dirty, so you seek solace through affairs? I rasped. He reached out to hug me. "Billy, you disgust me." I slapped him for the first time. With a force that left my hand numb, a bright red palm print appeared on his fair face. He hesitated, his eyes quickly filled with anger. "You find me disgusting just from a light touch? Was it only Daniel who disgusted you? Melody, get a grip. Daniel only sees you as a plaything. Are you so cheap that you're eager to indulge him?" Billy's words struck a nerve. I retorted, "You're right, I'd rather be eager to indulge him than have you touch me." I quickly retreated into the room, closed and locked the door. "Melody, come out," Billy demanded outside, grinding his teeth. After kicking the door a few times, he eventually calmed down and left, slamming the door behind him. Feeling drained, I leaned against the wall. I had long buried that incident in my subconscious. Yet today, Billy's words yanked me back into a dark tunnel of memories. "Mom, Uncle's been looking at me strangely." Mom set down the baby in her arms, her eyes filled with disgust. "Who should I blame? Why do you wear tight jeans? Why wear skirts? If you dress more modestly, who would look at you? Are you so cheap that you're eager for attention?" I clenched my hands tightly, a taste of rust in my mouth. She only had her stepfather and her newborn son in her world, never me. On that afternoon, when her mother wasn't home, the kind of plot that was only seen in TV dramas happened to May. Was on the living room floor, struggling and desperate. It was Billy who saved me, witnessing the most embarrassing moment of my life. Hair disheveled, shirt buttons all over the place. The warm and clean hands of a young man tightly held mine. "Melody, don't be afraid, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you." I couldn't deny, he was once a beam of light in my life. Since that day, I made the choice to completely leave my mother. No matter how much my mother cried and begged me to come back, I looked at her coldly. "Why do you have to be like this? You want me to come back just so you have someone to vent your frustrations on. But Mom, you don't love me, and that's the truth. I'm stubborn like that. I don't go back on my decisions." But I underestimated how much my mother resented me. She hated me enough to try to destroy me. In the hallway, she ran into Billy. She sneered at him, "My daughter's true colors, as a mother, I know them best. She's just pretending with you. She's done this kind of thing with someone in my family before." Her words undoubtedly planted a seed in Billy's heart, which would grow into a sharp thorn over the years. It wasn't until the first time I was with Billy that I found out. The bed sheets were clean, there was nothing there. That thorn pierced deep into his heart. I shyly explained, in a low voice, that I had a previous injury from learning to ride a bike, which caused it. Billy just grunted in response. It wasn't until many years later that I realized, he never truly believed in me, not even once. When any relationship loses trust, it's as good as over. "Let's get a divorce," I said sincerely. The screen lit up. "When should we get married first then?" I texted the wrong person. I sent the message I meant for Billy to Daniel by mistake. I sent that to the wrong person, not meant for you. Of course he understood what it meant. Am I disturbing your family life? Don't get upset, let's talk it out, have a proper conversation with him. So, which day are we going to get divorced? How about tomorrow, Friday? It's more suitable, after the weekend. We would have to wait 2 more days for Monday. I'm not in a hurry, just a little bit impatient. I chuckled, he seemed more anxious before I was. "Melody, I want to see you." His deep and enticing voice was trying to lure me in. But I didn't feel like it today. "Can we just chat then?" After a mundane 2-hour chat, I grew bored. "Take your clothes off, let me see." He chuckled at my audacity. "Alright, you wait." And the screen went black. After what seemed like 10 minutes, he reopened the call. Crossing his hands under the hem of his shirt, he slowly lifted it up, revealing his abs. At that moment, my spirits lifted instantly. "Now your pants, let me see." "No, unless you're here in person." I laughed, pretending to be reserved. "If you can make it in 5 minutes, I'll come visit you." Playing hard to get, are we? Well, I can do that too. He lived in the south side of the city, while I was on the east side. Even driving at 120 miles per hour, it would still take him an hour. Yet, 3 minutes later, I received a call from Daniel. "Come downstairs, Melody." My heart felt a sudden strike. I pulled back the curtain and saw a Maybach parked below. It was Daniel's usual car. "Daniel, have you been sitting outside my place all night?" "Not really. After you took your clothes off, I went to a nearby hotel to get a room. So that's why the screen went black for 10 minutes. I felt a warm surge when I thought of Daniel being prompt upon my wish to see him. I didn't even have time to change my shoes. I rushed downstairs in my pajamas and slippers to find a warm embrace on a chilly night. He held me tight. "Melody, leave him and be with me." His beautiful eyes gazed at me silently. At that moment, I believed the sincerity in his eyes wouldn't deceive me. But whether his words would hold true, I wasn't sure. "Daniel, do you think your family can accept someone like me?" Under the shimmering moonlight, our eyes were crystal clear. A barely perceptible evasion flickered in Daniel's eyes. I saw it. I'm not a teenager anymore. I understood what he meant. His eyelashes flickered lightly. "Melody, give me time, I'll make it work." I smiled at him. "When you've got it all sorted out, then come find me." In the end, I didn't lose out in this relationship. Men, well, I'll just find someone else. The next one might be even better. Pulling my coat tightly around me, I turned and headed upstairs. Daniel had stood outside my place all night. Billy only came back the next afternoon. Surprisingly, he had a bag of groceries in his hand. It didn't quite match his expensive designer suit. He smiled at me as if nothing had happened. "Melody, can I make the tomato sauce prawns you like?" "Billy, let's get divorced." That's when I noticed his tired expression. "Stop staring at me, you kept me up all night with your nuisance." Turns out, there's a difference between people who stay up all night. I was incredibly sleepy, while he seemed lively as if he had a great night. He slowly buttoned his shirt while approaching me, trying to kiss me. I turned my head away. Billy paused for a moment, then went to the kitchen to make lunch. I soaked in a bath, put on some makeup, dressing myself up nicely. 4 dishes and a soup were neatly arranged on the dining table. Billy hadn't cooked in a long while, so it was a bit rusty, but the dishes were presentable. "Melody, these are your favorites, please have some." "I'm not hungry, I have to go out for a bit." Billy's eyes dimmed instantly. "I cooked for quite a while, and look, I even burned my fingers." "I don't care if you've burned them, or even if you're beyond burned right now. Billy, when you were out enjoying yourself, dating, how many meals did I wait for you? Have you ever counted?" The response to him was a resounding slam of the door. Billy became enthusiastic towards me, as if we were back in our passionate days. He would bring me flowers, pick me up from the studio, cook dinner for me, and give me expensive jewelry. When I returned home one night, Billy was completely drunk, being escorted back by his brothers, mumbling Melody with every word. He insisted on finding me and no one else. After everyone left, I kicked him with my foot. "Don't pretend, you're not really drunk," I told him as he rubbed his forehead. "Melody, you know me best. Melody, I was wrong before. Can we start over? I'll treat you well." If I were a soft-hearted girl, maybe I would have agreed. Then we would have a few days of sweetness before falling back into our old routine. Remember, a man only cheats 0 times or 100 times. Billy, our relationship should have ended a long time ago. It's just my stubbornness that kept us going until now. He looked at me blankly. "Melody, do you really like Daniel?" He clenched his jaw, his face dark and uncertain. "Melody, I'll show you that Daniel isn't right for you." 3 days later, I was summoned to a top-notch private room to eavesdrop from behind a cracked door. It was clearly left there for me. Inside were important people from the business district, with Daniel's grandfather seated at the head. Today was a family feast, with no media present. The conversations these wealthy people had were sharper and more real than what ordinary people could imagine. "Daniel, heard you got involved with a married woman?" All eyes turned to Daniel, particularly Billy, who had a barely noticeable smirk. I could tell it was Billy's doing, setting Daniel up to be asked that question intentionally. I had anticipated this moment, but hearing it firsthand still tightened my heart uncontrollably. Daniel had great features. Even when saying harsh things, his face remained relaxed and lazy. If you get tired of playing, just dump her. A woman without a family background, a divorcee, how could she fit into our family? Daniel's grandfather sipped his tea. With a pleasant expression. Billy's smirk grew slightly. I could tell he wanted to see me look lost and upset. It confirmed to him how right he was about me. Daniel cleared his throat again, almost directing his words to Billy. But these women do have their advantages. They're sincere, easy to please. Just marry them and leave them alone at home, no need to treat them sincerely, and men can still do whatever they want outside. Billy, don't you think I'm right? Billy hesitated, his face turning ugly, his chair moving slightly. Daniel stood up, unbuttoning his shirt collar. All those things I said, you, Grandpa, and Billy wanted to hear them, right? I feel like slapping myself for saying such disrespectful things about women. Men who disrespect women will have a miserable life. So, you have to listen all the way through. Everything has a turnaround. Daniel smiled lightly. Like my dad who disappointed my mom, that's why he died early. And Billy, you'll deserve to lose the best wife. Daniel's grandfather slammed the table. You're willing to give up your career for a woman? If you mix with her, then you're not welcome back home. With his hands in his pockets, Daniel picked up his suit jacket and walked out. I can start over without a career, but not without a wife. Enjoy the rest of the meal, this isn't to my taste. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief. Daniel was leaving. I hurriedly headed for the staircase. At the corner, a hand grabbed me tightly. Melody, leaving once you've heard it all? Daniel buried his head in my neck. Melody, I have nothing now. Can you support me? Or not? I eat little and can work hard. The emphasis was on the last word. My ears turned red. Need to inspect the goods? I joked. Probably not, you've tried them for free many times before. Surely, you have to pay up now. Are you really so in love that you'd give up your family's inheritance rights? He raised an eyebrow. Didn't you hear what I just said? I asked for time, I'll handle it, you just don't believe me. He looked hurt, but held on to me tightly. A slight smile played on my lips. Let's rent a place first. Daniel's eyes sparkled, his smile bright. You've been ignoring me these days, it's been tough for me. Where does it hurt? He grabbed my hand, pressing it against his chest. I'm hurting all over. I shouldn't have asked, just forget it. Surely, you have to compensate me. Another sleepless night. Being too capable isn't always a good thing. When I handed the divorce agreement to Billy, he furrowed his brow. Are you sure you want to do this? Even though he has nothing? Billy was referring to Daniel behind me. He was there to supervise if the divorce was finalized. After Daniel left the family, he became even more relaxed and shameless. He sat cross-legged on the sofa in someone else's office as if he belonged there, getting Billy's assistant to make him a cup of hand-ground coffee. I still have Melody at least. I looked at her proudly. Billy, with a dark face, stood up feeling angry inside. I thought having a meal together would reveal Daniel's true colors, but he did the opposite. Surprisingly, it actually strengthened our bond. Letting a woman support you, and you feel proud? Have you no shame? Daniel took a sip of coffee. Why should I be ashamed? I have a wife, and that's enough for me. You don't understand, I'm pretty content. Haven't seen someone so shamelessly confident. Today, I've seen it all. Billy shot me a dark look. Melody, if you're so determined, it looks like a divorce is inevitable. If you ever face difficulties, come back to me. I'll always be here waiting for you. I always had a feeling that something wasn't right. Daniel got upset and pulled me out, leaving quickly. What are you looking for? I could tell he had ill intentions. Billy smashed a cup in the office. Billy finally spoke, arranging the divorce registration that day. I breathed a sigh of relief and went home with a bunch of lilies, my favorite. Just as I arrived at the front door, a figure appeared. "Shirley, you're back, Mom has been waiting for you." Looking at this familiar yet unfamiliar middle-aged woman, my scalp tingled. "Your uncle has been jailed, accused of molesting a young girl. That girl doesn't look innocent either. Your brother got involved in gambling and loan sharking. They say he won't repay the debt, so they want to chop off his fingers. Your little brother is naive and was deceived by others." I tried to suppress the feeling in my chest, but couldn't hold it. "Mom, can't you stop this? Is everything always someone else's fault, your husband and son too?" Mom widened her eyes. "How dare you say that? It's your stepfather and real brother. Do you want to help them? Who told you I'm staying here? Billy, you don't want such a good husband, you prefer to keep a gigolo." I pressed my fingers on my forehead. "Stop, my business is not your concern. Also, let me make it clear, they can't be saved. They made mistakes and should face the consequences." Mom got angry, her face contorting. With resentment, she demanded money. I laughed. "Mom, the money I gave you years ago should have been enough for retirement, no more now. I'm not an endless source of money like you think. You heartless child, fine, you just wait and see." Mom left grumbling. When Daniel came back, he picked me up and placed me on the rocking chair on the balcony before making me a cup of rose tea. Lately, he had become more skilled in taking care of me. "Did you hear?" He nodded without denying it. "Melody, if your family brings you endless negativity, cut ties boldly. Remember, it's not shameful." Daniel understood me. These were the thoughts in my mind too. "Daniel, I might end up with no family in the future." He kissed my forehead. "Don't worry, you still have me." I underestimated my mom's madness. One Monday, when Daniel dropped me off at the gallery where I work, I saw a woman on the rooftop about to jump, shouting through a megaphone. A crowd had gathered at the ground floor, looking at me with various expressions. "This is Melody, the head of this organization. She's immoral, her morals decayed. Is it safe for your children to be taught by her? She's been hooking up with her stepfather since she was young." The sun was scorching, and I felt a bit woozy. I struggled to keep my balance as sweat dripped down my back. The woman on the rooftop was my birth mother, trying to destroy me once again. Daniel pulled me close, covering my ears. "Melody, don't listen, it's not your fault." He calmly pulled out his phone, with a cold expression. "Yes, call the police. Bring 2 people as fast as possible to pull her down, even if you have to use duct tape." Thanks to Daniel's handling, the commotion finally subsided. "Melody, she's your mother. How do you want to handle this?" I felt the taste of rust from when I was 16 resurfacing. My mom is emotionally unstable and needs long-term treatment in a psychiatric ward. The last time I went to see her, there was a hint of fear in her eyes. "I'm your mother, I don't want to be here." "But Mom, you never treated me like your own daughter, did you? Love is mutual." "Mom, you don't love me. So I won't love you anymore. Don't worry, I'll provide your treatment expenses steadily." Mom collapsed on the floor. I stormed into Billy's office, wanting to slap him hard. Wasn't all of this because of him? Using my greatest fear to attack and insult me. When I was at my lowest point, trying to make me depend on him again. But someone had acted first. Daniel calmly put on a watch and adjusted his cuffs, wiping the blood from his mouth. There was a damaged beauty about him, incredibly captivating. "Melody, you're here?" "Billy. He's fine, just a small lesson." Billy on the ground looked utterly miserable, far from just a small lesson. His clothes torn, mouth bleeding, face covered in bruises, not an inch spared. Daniel snorted. "Useless men attack a woman's chastity. I've always belonged to Melody alone, isn't that right? Where do you get that sense of superiority from, cheating repeatedly? Trying to use Melody's family to ruin her career? Don't you understand? Men who destroy a woman's career will be struck by lightning. Billy's eyes were full of broken pieces. Melody, I'm hurting, he said as he held his chest in pain. He used to get my care and comfort whenever he said he was hurt, but that was all in the past now. Melody, please take a look. I'm really sick, Billy said as he shaky-handed me a cancer diagnosis paper. I looked back at him and said it clearly, Billy, you deserved it. Billy's face turned pale instantly, his eyes lost their spark. Melody, I feel dizzy, hurry, take me to the emergency room, he pleaded. Daniel pretended to faint, which startled me. After some tests, the doctor hesitated and finally said, it might be phantom pain. Just go home and rest. Daniel seemed to get addicted to acting sick. Every day it was either one ache or another. If it wasn't coaxing me to peel grapes for him, it was persuading me to give him a back rub. Daniel, you need to control yourself. I'm broke now, I'm afraid I won't be useful enough for you. If that's the case, just let me go. He looked pitiful, a hint of red in his eyes. In the following days, he went even further, didn't even cook any meals. Completely lost his sense of being taken care of. He just sighed and coughed in front of me all day long. Melody, I can't cook any food. What's going on with you? He started playing the victim. I come in and out of your home every day, buying groceries without any status or dignity. People in the market are talking about me in nasty ways, saying I'm not serious. I couldn't sleep well anymore, afraid that someone would dig out my past as a lover for love. I was speechless. What do you want? We've been living together for so long, but you never mentioned marriage. Are you just waiting to leave me anytime? He closed his notebook. All right, let's get married next Monday. But he kept dragging his feet. What's wrong now? Can't we do it this way? Can we do it tomorrow, please? I really can't wait until next Monday. Gritting my teeth, I agreed, fine. Daniel's face lit up with a radiant smile. Humming a tune, he happily went to the market to buy groceries. Minutes later, I heard him chatting with the neighbors. The weather is nice today, did you know I'm getting married tomorrow? By the midnight, everyone in the neighborhood knew. After the marriage registration was done, I realized that you can't trust a man's sweet talk. I chose a villa by the stream as our wedding home. Do you like it? Weren't you kicked out of the family? Are you a pauper now? I asked. Yeah, but I didn't say I'm broke. Don't worry, I've got some personal assets overseas to support us. I thought I had. A bit disappointed, Daniel, you lied to me too. Most of those assets are in the process of changing ownership, still under your name. Rubbing my nose, I said, it's okay to lie occasionally. Later, Daniel pinned me on the bed, asking over and over, Melody, tell me, do you like me or just my money? Kids make choices, I want both, money and you.